I think you know about this. I think the theme for this was and when you were young, it was something about childhood. Yeah, I do this at the Mayflower too. I live in Mayflower and I do twice a month. I do a small collage. Yeah, I'll have to show you some of these. I love it. These are.
Hi everybody. Welcome back. We're back. You know, we took a month off, but we're back. Hello everybody who's watching from home. So by the way, we are streaming this live and it's public, it's free. You can tell your friends if you want them to watch this. And it will stay on there, so youtube.com/Timucua. And thank you so much for you ladies for accepting to come and talk to us about art and education. But before we start and we introduce Lezlie and Bickley and Jolie. That's how I say it.
That's great.
You know how to operate it? You just long press on. Long press on. It doesn't have to be on the whole time. RK, you ready? So here to tell you a little bit about next month. So first of all, a couple of things, okay? Before RK, I call it RK here, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some changes to our schedule. So first of all, this next next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, normally it would have been meditation with Puja, but Puja is not feeling well. We're not going to do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to do Jazz Jam on second Wednesdays now. And so Jazz Jam at 7:30 on second Wednesdays instead of second Thursday. So that's going to be pretty good for me because it makes it a little bit more streamlined. And it's good for everybody because then we're not competing with all of the other jazz jams on Thursday nights because there's a lot more around town. So Wednesdays, we're going to be the only ones. So that's that. And then the other thing is there are some really special events coming up. So I can tell you about this weekend. Of course, every event that's here I think is special. But we have Songs of the Hispanic Diaspora on Saturday. That's local composers writing or setting Spanish poetry to music. And then on Saturday, that's on Friday. That's on Friday, right?
Saturday.
That's on Saturday. And then Sunday is, Sunday it might sell out. So hurry up if you're interested. But it's new compositions for Chinese string instruments. And it's led by Scout, and so it's going to be really interesting because this is the beginning of our International Guitar Festival, and you know the guitar, the guitar version, the Chinese, they don't have the guitar. They have this weird. So that's what we do. I forget the name of the instrument, but it's kind of similar to some Japanese instruments as well, shamisen. But anyways, it's a little close to that. So anyways, that's this weekend. But we have on September 7th, which is Labor Day. Yes?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
I think that's
so
right.
Monday, Labor Day, Monday, from 3 p.m. till 10 p.m. There's going to be 4 different concerts and a barbecue. Like you can get hot dogs or whatever, hamburgers. My son's in charge of the barbecue. Jean-Marie is the cook. And so, and you want beer from 10:10. So, and of course, Eric Alexander is headlining the festival, so he's a big name. So from Chicago, so you know, don't miss that on the 7th. It's $50, gets you access to all 4 concerts and the barbecue and the beer. So it's a pretty good deal. It's a pretty good deal. And then we have Marvin Smitty Smith, okay, drummer from like he's a legendary drummer. He's coming with an octet on the 19th of September on Friday. I think the 18th on Friday. The 18th, he's going to do a drum clinic at 3 p.m. and then a show at 7 p.m. with the octet, and at 9 p.m. with the octet. That's a very special show. They both will sell out very fast, so get your tickets now for that. All right? So aside from that, please help me welcome RK Kelly because she will be doing the next Timucua Talks on the first Wednesday.
Thank you, Benoit. Well, I'm here to learn about art and education, actually, but, all right, get up here and find the light, find your light, all right. Well, it's great to be here at Timucua. My name is RK Kelly, and I represent the Central Florida Pledge. I'm part of the team there, and that's a community cohesion commitment that several thousand people and many organizations, including Peace and Justice Institute, including Timucua, have taken a pledge to treat all people with dignity and respect, especially those with whom we disagree. And on September 2nd, which is 4 weeks from tonight, we're next up on Timucua Talks, and we will be hosting art and civility conversation, and we'll be basing that conversation around a really timely topic, and that's election season. Dr. Joel Hunter, our chairman, has just released a book titled, actually a field guide, small, quick read, on faith and politics, the pledge approach to faith and politics. You can download it through the Orlando Sentinel or through our website. And it's a quick read. We will be giving it free to everyone that comes in a month. And Dr. Joel served in George W. Bush's administration as a spiritual advisor at the White House, and then with Barack Obama in the White House for 8 years. And he really understands what it takes to work across the aisle, and how do you encourage us all to aspire to a higher plane and a higher level of dialogue and exchange of ideas versus just conversation ending viewpoints. And so that's what the pledge is all about, inviting people to conversation. I can't believe Rachel's here, our good partner, Peace and Justice Institute, amazing training around that all year long. But we'll be here in a month or in 4 weeks, so I hope you'll join us. And now I'm going to go get educated. So thank you, ladies.
Okay, I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to make Bickley stand up here. Just stand up, Bickley. No, this is show and tell. We did not plan this. Can you believe it? She knocked on my door, and I opened it, and we both went, "We're neighbors." You can sit down, thank you. She's a little bit more chic than I am, but that's okay. I'm Lezlie Laws, and I am thrilled to see you guys here because I truly thought it would be the three of us and Leah and Benoit. And then I knew my babes here would be here too. So, but wow, thank you. And we had to drive through a horrible rainstorm to get here. So anyway, I'm glad you made the effort, and I hope we will. I hope you'll be able to find some nuggets of benefit for you and for this world that we want to help so desperately. So I am not the expert here tonight. I am merely the facilitator. But I'll tell you just a little bit about me. I am an ambassador for the Timucua Foundation. And I had a badge, but I forgot it. Can you believe? Of all nights, I wear it around the Mayflower too, which is where I am. And it's a great conversation starter. So anyway, I have been an art lover my entire life, an art collector almost all of my life, and a proponent of the arts in education most of my life. And we are dealing with some very difficult times these days, so this is a very important conversation that people need to be having, that the world needs to be having, but especially Florida, the state of Florida needs to be having. So we have two experts for you here. They're going to explain and talk a little bit about their commitment to the arts, their mission, as they see it, for working within the arts in some way, and a little bit of their life and their passion. I think you'll go away really informed and inspired by these two women. So Bickley Wilson is here, and Bickley has formerly been I'm going to have to put my glasses on here to read. She was a therapist for many years and worked in marriage and family therapy, especially working with addictions. And so she's led a lot of group therapy and therapeutic camps for children of addicts. Now, I'm not going to say there's much more here about her biography, but I'm going to let her do that part of it, because she's going to tell the story of how she funneled this passion of hers
and the work that she had started as a counselor and therapist, and has turned it into a magnificent program that you're going to be very interested in, I know. So that's Bickley Wilson, and she's also my neighbor, 2 doors down. And I think I'm the one that got you rooked into doing this, right?
I think so.
So I'm to blame. Jolie, Joseph Spelman, is a new person to me, but I'm so delighted to have met her and been able to talk with her the last few weeks. She is amazing, you guys. I can't wait for you to hear her talk about art, her own art and the teaching of art. So she has, as she says in her biography, her artistic journey spans her entire life. So you can just see little Jolie with her crayons and her, I can see it all.
You did this.
The thing that she brings to this conversation that is so important is Jolie is an artist. She is a living, producing artist. It's her life. It's what she does. She's also a teacher of art. And she and I, one of the things I enjoyed when I first met her was having that conversation about the difference between performing something and actually teaching it and inspiring it within the minds and bodies of other people. So she brings experience in teaching from very early grades all the way up to the college level. And so I am just so thrilled to be here with them, to introduce them to you, and to let you hear a little bit of the mission that they bring to their lives. Now I'm going to, before I turn it over to them, I'm going to, I want to read a little bit. I've got some of my people have been in a lot of classes and workshops with me, so they know Dr. Laws always starts with a passage, an inspiring passage. But Bickley and I both want to tell you about this book, Your Brain on Art, How the Arts Transform Us. If you are a serious person about art and the status of the arts in our lives and in our schools, this is a must-read. It's very well-researched, it's beautifully written, and it's very accessible reading, even though there's a lot of stuff about neuroscience in here. But it is very inspiring, and Bickley will tell you about her experience with it. I want to read just a little bit from the first chapter, which is called Language, the Language of Humanity. The authors say, the arts bring joy, inspiration, well-being, understanding, and even salvation. And while these experiences may not be easy to explain, you have always known they are real and true. But here's the interesting thing about this book. We now have scientific proof that the arts are essential to our very survival. That's a powerful statement to make. The arts are essential to our very survival. So from whatever angle you come at this topic tonight, whether you're an artist yourself, or whether you're a teacher, you're an administrator in the school systems in some way, or an educator of any sort, this is just such an empowering and important book for us to know about. And one more thing I want to read, and then I'll turn things over to our experts here. They go on to say, we know how art, in its countless forms, heals our bodies and minds. We've got the evidence for how the arts enhance our lives and build community. We know, too, how the aesthetic experiences that make up every moment alter our basic biology. Now think about that for a minute. I think everybody could go with me for the first 3 sentences of that paragraph, but to actually claim that aesthetic experiences literally inform our biology. This is so important to know, and so important to bring into the conversation about art education in our schools at all levels. the writers say, the research that we've just been referring to on how the arts and aesthetics affect us give rise to a field that is radically changing how we understand and translate the power of arts. It is called neuroaesthetics. Neuroaesthetics, isn't that a great word? So several of the chapters in this book deal with the literal neurobiology. What is going on in the brain when somebody interacts with art, produces art, responds to art, sees art? This is a very, very exciting book. So neuroaesthetics, and more broadly, it's called neuroarts. So you're going to hear a little bit from these two experts on the amazing things that can happen and do happen daily in the classroom and in workshops and in all kinds of other extracurricular activities that we can provide for our children, and not just for our children, for ourselves too. So with that being said, again, get to your Amazon site as soon as you can and buy this book. We're going to talk about it more as the evening goes on. But we'll begin with, as I said, when we were talking about kind of what we wanted to do, I mean, this is a pretty big topic, right? Art and education. Oh my God, where do you begin? But what I decided when we were all talking about where we would begin and what, with just the short amount of time we have, how we would go about covering some material, I thought it would be good to start with autobiography, which is part of my training as a teacher. I used to teach autobiographical writing. And I want both of them to talk about their lives and their experiences. And I'm going to ask Bickley to begin and finish the story of your biography as much up to where I read, from the therapy into the new endeavor that is really inspiring her and many other people these days. So Bickley, Can you tell us about it? How did you get started?
Do I need to stand up?
No.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't need the microphone. I'm going to say that this book is awesome. Everybody needs to read it. I have a foundation called Art Reach Orlando. Any of you all heard of that? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, look at that. Good. And as I'm reading this book, all over the place you'll see ARO, because it relates so much to the work we do. It's unbelievable. And I started my work. I was a therapist in addictions, and my boss said, would you be interested in starting a children's program? And they were children of the adults, and I don't know how many of you all grew up maybe with alcoholics, but I did. And in an alcoholic family, you don't talk. Some things are better left unsaid, and that means everything. So there was no opportunity to express myself or to tell the truth. So when I had the opportunity to work with these children, and maybe once a month we would get in a group with the parents and the children could actually say something. So that was my beginning of working with children. And when I retired, my boss said, now, don't make anything up. I had an idea of maybe opening a coffee shop with a bookstore. Does that sound like fun? Yeah. Love books. I'm a bookaholic. And she said, don't make anything up. God will provide. Okay. So it wasn't too far after that I had this dream. And it was to buy a house in Hannibal Square and to totally, redo it into an art studio for children. And only 2 rules. Number 1, you can't paint on the walls, which I would change today. And you can't paint on each other. And So I decided to do that. And my daughter Rachel, who's Peace and Justice, she's here on the first row, she said, you know, Mom, I have a friend who knows about this kind of stuff and maybe she could help you. And instead of buying a house in Hannibal Square, we went to the Orange County school system and started going into schools. And Outreach has been totally awesome. We started in 2012, and our first program was in Bickley. And there's Orlando Academy in Bickley, and the children are, one day I was talking to this young man, and I don't remember the question I asked him, but he said, oh no, I can't do that. My father's in prison, and my mother is an alcoholic and a prostitute. So this was, many of the children were living in situations like this. And needless to say, you know, you keep your mouth shut. So our first endeavor was a week in the summer at Bickley working with these children. And, oh my God, some of you know Sarah Zimmer, and Sarah was an original employee. She was there. She was at Bickley with me. And
what kind of programs did you have them doing?
what we did was, the mission of Outreach is to create a safe environment. So the children can come in and it's just the children and the art teachers. And they can talk about anything they want to talk about. They can draw about anything. And Jen Benner, how many of you all know her? Yeah. She is, oh my God, I call her a child whisperer. She's just unbelievable with these children. And she comes up with, you know, today we're going to do a portrait. And I've got a story about the work we do. One young boy's father died, and he was totally taken down. You know, he was just, oh my God. And from coming to Outreach and doing the work, and he was out at Hope Community Center, he did a portrait of his dad. First time he'd ever done anything like that.
Wow.
And it just helped him. It helped him so much to let go and to heal from that, you know, from that death of his father. So that's the importance of art. And these kids in Bickley who, you know, don't have a connection with people. They don't, their parents are, you know, that's not unusual to hear dad's in prison and, you know. So the work we did was Jen would come up with, and a lot of times she would use an artist and bring artwork of that particular artist, and this is what we're going to, this is going to motivate us. And, you know, it just would be all different kinds of art. You name one and Jen does it. And it's just, I remember one time I used to go out there and help her with it, and Orange County Academy is kindergarten through 12th grade. So we had all ages. And one time I was going in the front door and this little girl ran up to Jen and jumped into her arms and said, Miss Jen, you know, so she made a difference in those children's lives just through art. And like I say, it could be a portrait of your mom, or a portrait of you, or a collage, or, you know, watercolors, pencil, anything. I mean, she's done some of everything with these kids, and it has changed lives. It has. When we got there, they had never had a senior graduate. And after a few years, they had a graduation of 4, and it's continued. So it's just like, oh my God. And then we went from there to the public school system, and we are in Paramore, Bithlow, Apopka, Pine Hills, and most of the schools that we go to are Title I schools. So that we are helping those children, as I say, to create that. I think the number one thing is to create that space, that safe environment where they can talk, they can make friends, you know, with the other kids. They can trust somebody. It's just been, it's just been totally incredible, this program. And like I say, I can't really take credit for it. It was God that led me here. And it's just been just absolutely incredible. So we started in 2012, and we're in a process now. We're a private foundation, but trying to go into a public foundation. And we're working at Nemours Children's Hospital. I mean, if you had the opportunity to go and sit and watch these children, I mean, it just touches my heart so much. It makes me cry. And one day, and I'm going to stop after this, but when we were at Howard Middle School, and I remember when the program started, we did it in the afternoon, and when the program ended, several children were walking down the hall crying. You know, when are we going to do this again?
Oh.
Are you going to come back? Are you going to, you know, it just has made such a difference in these children's lives, and it's about the art. You know, it's not just a flaky thing you do that, you know, you get to play. It's very, very important because it goes deep into them. So
That is, it's such an inspiring story, but I've got a couple of questions. And by the way, let me say, we want this to be a conversation. So if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you want to know some detail that you think she's forgotten, you know, please, I'm going to be watching out there. I have a question. So I did not know that you were in so many different schools. And is that, so how does that work, Bickley? I mean, is it a special program on Saturdays, or is Jen working with the teachers, or is she working just with the, how does it actually work?
it depends on the school. You know, like at Howard Middle School, we were there in the afternoons. She has done, at Hope Community Center, we are there during the day.
Okay.
And usually there is a teacher who works with, like one time, I don't remember which school it was, but the teacher that was assigned to us was the music director. And we did music, which we had never done before. When I worked with them in the beginning, I write poetry. So we did poetry, and then they would stand up and, you know, act out their poetry. At the end of a program, all of the parents come and they do a special show for them. So we met with the Orange County Public School people, and they just directed us to schools. Sometimes we're in a community center, like the new school, is it ACES? Is that the school in Paramore? Mm-hmm. When we tried to get into that, they were too busy. They had too much going on, so we didn't do that. But we have a classroom in Paramore on Westmoreland and Arlington. Yeah. And many of the children can walk there, and I'm going to say 95% are scholarships. So, you know, if you can afford it, that's fine. We provide lunches. We do everything we can to get these children into this process safely and easily for them.
It's beautiful.
So, yeah, so we're at, like in Pine Hills, we're at a Catholic school, and is it Andrews? I don't remember.
St. Andrews. St. Andrews?
St. Andrews, yes, St. Andrews. We're there in that school. And
so that's all news to me. I'm not even more impressed now, but because my understanding, I know it from McRae. You all know we've got McRae folks here tonight. So we I know that there's that space there in McRae, in the McRae Studios for art, and that goes on the weekends. Is that right, or is that?
In the summertime, she'll do 2 or 3 weeks in a row during the
Okay.
week, and then on the holidays, she'll do a weekend, or, and many of the McRae artists help her with the
Yes.
children, and needless to say, wow.
Yeah. How awesome that must be for them to work with real artists that are
The real
producing
thing.
stuff. And I know from Mimi Huang is here, and she's a McRae artist, and I know from those people and Mimi that have worked with them that they love going into the studios, right? To see a real artist studio, and to just come to understand that this is something that people do. That there are these people that go into these little dark cubicles every day and create magic, and so that has been a joy to watch that happening through the McRae organization. You can see what a big job she has here, and this is a foundation, so they don't have to pay to come to these, or it's an optional thing. A scholarship, or
Well, when we go into the schools,
They don't
don't
pay,
pay
yeah.
anything. At the classroom at McRae, like I said, I think about 95% are probably scholarships.
Yeah.
So we're working for grants. That's why we're trying to turn into a public charity, so we could get bigger grants and
Yeah.
offer more
Yeah.
to the children. So, yeah,
Fascinating.
it's awesome.
What a mission to have for your life. Very inspiring. Very inspiring.
I brought a picture here, which I'll just pass around, of the young man whose father died, and he did this portrait of his dad.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah, these children are just unbelievable.
Well, I think obviously this is a powerful story, and there's this angel here who has received this mission to create this organization and fund it, and so she's a tremendous philanthropist in our community. And I wonder about this may be a better question for Jolie, but in addition, definitely for Jolie too, but I just wonder, because this book is so interesting. The first part of it there's quite a long section on the neurobiology of the brain and what actually happens in the human brain when you're given the materials, the space, and the time, and the safety. I think this is an important part of her mission, is creating these safe spaces for children to use their mind, body, and spirit in a way of expressing something that's real to them, and that they feel and have trouble expressing verbally. And so I'm wondering if there are any studies going on in any of these schools. Is anybody doing any research? It seems to me there's a great PhD dissertation here for somebody in arts education at UCF who wants to come and study the actual mental effects. How, I would love to see that happening. How do you actually, you'd have to be a teacher, and I'm sure Jolie is going to be able to speak to that some too. You see the evolution. If you have the opportunity to work with students over time, you can begin to see the evolution as a child who becomes comfortable in a classroom expressing himself or herself, and then how does that spill over into her reading class or her math class or whatever. So there's just so much goodness that can be brought about in this world, and this woman is doing a huge part of that. So I can't thank you enough for being here, sharing your story with them. Anybody have a question at this point before we move on to Jolie about the program?
Not yet.
Yeah?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, good, good. Well, let's talk to Jolie then, because as I said, I was so inspired when I was introduced to her because, first of all, as I said, she is a working artist, producing art daily, okay? Well, maybe not daily, but...
I tried, but
And she has this big, rich history of so many different age levels that she's worked with. So she has a real sense of the curriculum, what the curriculum, the art curriculum is in Central Florida, and also the developmental process that a teacher can begin to observe in children and young people and adults too. I take art classes too. Didn't start until I was 74, but you know, better late than never. So Jolie, tell us about your mission and how.
I'm going to use the microphone because my voice is.
Oh yeah, she has a little bit of a.
I got a little laryngitis.
This is the first day of school,
We are
preschool, right?
Pre-planning, yeah.
Pre-planning. So you, if any of you have taught public school, you know what that's like.
Or even private school. But yeah, it's hard on the voice, but I don't think I need to talk any louder than this. So my journey is so much different than yours, but we serve sort of the same, not the same child, but the same mission. Way back when I went to college, I went to college for an advertising degree. I was in, marketing and advertising. And I got out, and I was 22 years old, and I'm like, oh, this sucks. This is not a happy place, right? I was not a happy, I was a different person. I didn't have a thick enough skin. It just wasn't the right place for me. But my art teachers had made such an impact on me at that point. I had a really great high school art teacher, a couple of really great college art teachers. I went to school locally, so I'm a local girl, Lake Brantley High School. And so Gail Rusikoff, I don't know if she's pretty, she has been active in the community, not as much anymore. And Grady Kinsey in college, and they both made huge impacts on me, right? And then at UCF as well. I was never an art major, I was an advertising major, but I took all these art classes. So I graduated, worked in that field for a while, and I needed to go back and do something that was more meaningful. So I decided, with the encouragement of my family, to go back and be an art teacher. And I graduated in December, and I'm like, how the heck am I going to get a job in this January? But that doesn't exist in the school system. And lo and behold, a beloved art teacher from, I want to say Howard, I think it was Leon Theodore, it was retiring. I don't know if any of you know him. And I got that position. It was Edgewater High School. So I had that position at Edgewater. So I taught there for a couple of years, taught down at Gateway High School in Kissimmee for a few years. And then I went to a Catholic school system, taught there for many, many years. So my experience as far as teaching goes has always been with, most of it has been with the Catholic school system, or right now I'm at an independent school. So the demographic, I should say, totally different, right? And you think that these kids have it all. Why not? Why make that inspiration? But they are so driven in, what's the word I'm looking for? They are so pushed to be away from the arts, to make money, to go into be a law, to be a doctor, to do other, like, art is the last thing on a lot of the family's minds. Like, you can't make money doing art, but you can do art. But I know that a lot of my students are not going to become artists. Weirdly enough, 15% of my graduating class decided to study art in college.
Wow.
That's a lot, right? 15% of last year. So we have a small, at Trinity, there's a small group, relatively small, it's like 100, it's like 130 maybe graduating. So 20 of them, 18 of them went on to study. That's a lot, y'all.
Yeah, that is
really
amazing.
Right, so we're making an impact, and if they are not going to be an artist, my goal is to make them an art appreciator. So these are the kids that are going to be having that, a lot of them are going to have that expendable income. They're going to be the ones that support the artists, that have a love for the artists, right? And how do you have a love for art? You create art. You immerse yourself in it somehow. So that's always been my mission, is to show everybody that you can support the arts in one way or another, whether you're an artist, whether you're an art supporter. You go and sit in the audience and listen. You guys, we couldn't do this without you sitting here and listening to us be talking to an empty room. You know, like, that's no fun. So that instillment of an appreciation for the arts is so important in a child. I've had so many, I was thinking about this, I think I've taught 7,000 students
Oh my God.
in my career.
Wow.
7,000, 35 years of teaching, right? I just didn't average. I had so many kids a year, you know, I kind of figured it out. That's a lot of humans, right? So those kids have been somehow inspired, and so many of them reach out to me. They find me through social media and say, "You made a difference in my life. You encouraged me." Yeah, these are private school kids, you know, but they are getting just as encouraged as the kids that are maybe marginalized, but they need that just as much. We all need it, right? We all need to be inspired by someone, or be inspired by something. So, gosh, I'm really going on a tangent. I have no idea where I'm at. I'm trying to anyway, so where am I going to go? Just get this back. So some of my missions in my career has been to show you that you can do it. All you have to do is just try. Just put a pen on paper. You don't even have to show anybody. Just do something. And the neuroscience, right? The neuroscience behind creating art and viewing art is it is beyond amazing. Like, what it shows is that, I sure wish I had all those numbers and statistics to impress you, but what it shows is that your brain actually fires in a whole different way when you view art, when you listen to art. You don't have to be an artist, right? It's nice if you are an artist, and if you purchase artists' work, that's great. But, like, just being around art makes a difference in your physiology. Like, you'll feel it, right? And so that's always been my mission. People say, "I can't be an artist." Like, yes, you can. Anybody can be an artist. Going back to that childhood, you know, you can do that. Any child can be an artist. You can be an artist, right? I love the fact that in my department, I have a department of maybe 13 people. We have probably 9 of us are professional artists in some way, right? So not only are we teaching, but we're also performing at night and showing in galleries and creating artwork and teaching in workshops and doing art shows, right? Composing music, right? Doing a philharmonic at night. You know, all those are things that we do. It's really, really amazing. So we're showing these kids that you can make a profession of it. You really can. I just enjoy teaching. We all enjoy teaching. But you really can be a part of it if you really want to. And so I think it shows, right, in there.
So can I ask a question at this point?
Please help me get back on the track.
I'm so interested in what you're saying in the light of an energy that has existed for many years. It's not new, but we're seeing it manifesting in its most pernicious way now. But where there is a dismissing of art education. And by arts, I mean all of the arts, music, all of the humanities, writing, literature. When I can remember, something like this has happened to me many times in class, where I taught English at both the high school level and the college level, and I would often have a student say to me in a writing class, "I don't really need to do this." This would be male students mostly would say this. "I don't need to learn this stuff." And I would say, "Oh, really? Why not?" "Well, I'm going to have a secretary. I'm going to major in business, and I will have a secretary. that will take care. And you know, that was just like such a disturbing thing for me to have to figure out a gracious way to respond to the little jerk. You know, and but you know, and I know I mean, that didn't come out of him, you know, full blown. I mean, you know, it came from his family, the system that he was in. But I see this, and we all see this in our public schools and in our colleges. There is a great threat to the humanities in our culture these days. And it is dismissed as not being important enough. We're not being, you can't amortize it. You can't amortize a love of, as the Greeks would say, the good, the true, and the beautiful. But doesn't that make us human beings?
Yes.
To have the capacity to respond and sense the good, the true, and the beautiful? And so I'm wondering, Jolie, well, I kind of got off on a rant there myself. Didn't quite mean to do that, but I'm passionate about this subject. So I'm wondering, how do you as an educator make that case to your children or to your students that there are other things that happen to us from learning about the arts?
So one of the things that I really try to impress on the students is that art teaches creative thinking. We want creative thinking lawyers. We need creative thinking engineers. We need people who can think out of the box. And it teaches you that out of a failure, success can come too. So in a piece of artwork, you know, something gets messed up, you drop your water bottle over it, something happens. Well, let's make something of this. This is something where the universe is pushing us towards this way. Let's go with this. Let's go with it. And so teaching them that resilience is really, really important. I am extraordinarily blessed to be in a school that really values art and understands that art is essential to the learning process. I know that. Yeah. I'm kind of in a unicorn kind of school. I have worked at schools where it wasn't that way. Yeah. But regardless, the importance of that creative thinking, that ability to be resilient, that ability to think outside the box, to come up with a different solution, to work, come up with processes. Like in the beginning art class, you give the kids step 1, step 2, step 3, this is how you complete a project to be successful. But as you build the course and get the kids to become more independent, they say, okay, this is what you want to get to. Let's come up with a way. And they come up with their own way. So there's a process into teaching that. Yeah. Early on, an early learner needs the steps. They want the steps. But if they want to do something different, I say, hey, do something different. Yeah. You want a different material? Let me give you something different. This is what we're starting off. This is the baseline.
You know, what you've said before and in other conversations that we've had too, and I noticed this more about art teachers, I think, than I do other disciplines. But there is this attitude of, if you mess it up, don't worry. You can paint over it, or you can do it over. You can come up with another solution to make it's not going to be what you thought it was going to be, but it might be even better than what you thought it was. And I also think another thing, something you said, I'm not going to be able to remember the exact words, but this notion of giving them this attitude that just because something goes wrong, according to what you think should be right and wrong, doesn't mean that it's a good idea to drop it altogether. Right. That you build persistence, and as you said, resilience is a really good word. In fact, in this book, if I may just pop in for a minute to say this, they say, think of the arts as an activity that changes your biology, emotional state, and enhances your well-being. It creates calm, it regulates emotions, it reduces stress, it lowers cortisol, it increases resilience, lowers anxiety, lifts energy, and brings a general sense of well-being to the human being, whether you're viewing it or producing it.
Right. Agreed.
They didn't make me president,
No.
so.
I think what I'm trying to teach a student, regardless of whether they're an adult student or whether they're a student at my school or in my workshop, is that you enjoy the process.
Yes.
You enjoy what you're creating. And some of the workshops I teach are the art journaling workshops, and that was something that I wanted to make sure to bring up because every one of you can take any kind of book and just draw. I mean, it's your personal little art. I mean, you don't have to show anybody. It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. It's just you're creating. You're interacting with the art, right? Draw straight lines, then make those lines thick, and then make those lines curly, and just keep working until, and oh, crap, I don't like it. Let's put some white paint on it. Okay, go back to the next day. Let's put some different markers. We'll do horizontal lines and stuff. And so you just start building layers until you get to the point that you think it might be close to done, and then you close the book and you come back to it and go, okay, now I'm going to write a poem on top of this. Or I'm going to cut out something I saw in a magazine that I thought was kind of cool and I slap it on there. And so nothing's going to be done in a day. So if you look at the journals that I brought, you're welcome to look at them. Nothing's too personal. Nothing was done in a day. It was done in weeks, months, sometimes years. So there's still backgrounds that I haven't done that I did 3 years ago in there. But you just kind of, it's just, you open yourself into creating something. It doesn't matter. So what I'm trying to tell my students is you just do something. Try your best. It's okay that it doesn't look like mine or doesn't look like your friends. Just do it and turn it in. Because, that's the way you get the grade. If you don't turn it in, right? So, just turn it in, right?
It sounds a lot like you're really privileging process over product
I
here.
really do. But the product ends up being freaking amazing.
Oh, I'm sure,
It's really nuts. But the idea of the process, to create, to participate, not to be a viewer. And it's so easy to be a viewer, isn't it? And it's not that it's bad to be a viewer, we all need viewers, but that process and that commitment to just participate is really important.
One of the things that we tell the children is that you can't do it wrong.
No.
It's art, it's your art, and you can't do it wrong.
It's always going to be better than it would have been without
Absolutely.
instruction. And that was like when you're teaching portraiture and that portrait comes out, I mean, but even so, if you did that without instruction, it would not even look close to being that, it'd be, so just try it, and the next time you try it, it's going to be better, the next time you try it, it'll be better, the next time you try it. So just don't give up.
That's so good, Jolie. Let me just read one more line here. I'm sorry, but this is so good because she's giving the real life experience of what the researchers are saying here. Listen to this. This is talking about the
I didn't read
arts.
the book, by the way. I didn't know about the book.
The arts improve our psychology by offering enhanced self-efficacy, coping, and emotional regulation.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
And regardless of what demographic group you're working with, we all need that, no matter what. So I've always thought that even though I am working with a privileged group of kids, these kids need it. They need it just as much and so I'm there serving them in that way. That's where I'm called. And there are people that are called to work in the different areas. It's wonderful. I support them as well. It's just that my area where I was called was to work with a different group of kids,
I want to pass this around because have anybody here heard of soul collage?
Yes.
Okay, we do. That's one of the things that we do is soul collage. And these are photographs, and I made cards of them today, of a program we did with the Peace and Justice with teachers in Seminole County. And Peace and Justice is bringing classes on ACEs and, really working with the children. So we did these programs with the teachers, and that they got to make their own cards, cards about, make a card about when you were 10 years old. And that's what this is. You'll see this and the fun they're having, and that they would take it on to their students. So,
So in
I just want you to
education,
see,
that's
and these are
called visuals.
photographs of them, and they're real, they're not magazine.
So I was going to say, in education, it's called visual narrative, right? And coming up with a narrative. And in art education, there's been all kinds of swings, writing in art, and then don't write. There's all kinds of like documentation. So one of the things I would do a lot is have kids do poetry based on their artwork, right? I always talk to the students about creating a story, a narrative. What do you want the viewer to see and to come away with when you look at a piece of artwork, when they look at your work? And they're going to bring their own portion of the story, and so the story might not be what you intend, but it's going to be a story, it's going to be a narrative. So that is an excellent way of creating a personal narrative, for sure.
Jolie, I would like, we have a question besides me. I have lots of
I
questions.
was just going to support, I have to get a book, I haven't read it. I'm just going to support what you're saying from the book.
Yeah.
I'm a recovering entertainment attorney. So, but as...
Recovering
entertainment. I just want to
It's
check her down.
road, isn't it?
Yeah. So perhaps we'll need you to go there. But there's an area in Switzerland where there was a high crime, which for Switzerland that expressed me just this much. And they started piping classical music through, and crime went down.
Oh my God.
And in Rwanda, remember Rwanda had that huge genocide. And the way the groups got together, and part of the reconciliation was art. Together, they did
my
that together.
God.
So art is really absolutely very therapeutic.
And it's a way to find a common thread that may not have been there before.
We are undoubtedly speaking to the choir here, preaching to the choir, but I wonder why that kind of information is not more commonly held in our institutions of learning or in our administrative institutions. It's disturbing to me when I guess, part of this was something I wanted to ask Jolie too, is I wonder about the fact that it seems like art is one place where the standards of judgment are not quite so rigid as they are in the other disciplines. Like if you
visual arts versus
versus just any other class that the student or any other circumstance. We grade, rate, and categorize our students more now than it's ever been done in public schools. And so one of the things that I face in my instruction with art is I teach meditation classes at the Orlando Museum of Art. And one of the things I'm trying to get my people that come to these sessions to get is that you can look at a piece of art without critiquing it. You don't have to make a judgment of it. Like, my daughter could do that painting. This is worthless because I'm sure my 12-year-old daughter could do this. But I think that if we can, what I hear you doing in your classrooms and you doing with your organization is creating an environment where there's a way big, broader standard of excellence, if you want to call it that. But it's more, the emphasis is on the expression and the pleasure and the joy and the sort of inspiration that comes from actually making the expression. And to me, that's a whole different standard than what I think our children and adult learners also get in other arenas of study.
So I have to say that in a school like mine, they're very academically driven.
Yes.
So they come in, they go, what's it supposed to look like? It's supposed to look like. So it's really, really hard to say, to tell them, they want an example, right? And so I do give them some sort of example. This is kind of where you're going. But I want you to know that if you go in a different direction, as long as you have tried, you've used the materials the way I've, asked you to try to use the materials, and if you've discovered a new way, that's even better. they want the steps, they want the process, they want to know what the end result is going to look like. They want to know if their grade is not a 100%, they want to know why, right? And it is hard not to, you do have to, you want to reward the kids who really go amazing, and the ones that don't try at all, you have to make sure that they're great. So the grading part is really hard when it comes to art.
But that's where the process, I mean, if they haven't engaged in the process, then more legitimately give a lower grade than.
Right, exactly. If I've given 2 weeks on an assignment and they spent 2 hours, right, there's an effort there. They have to have documentable reasons why you give a lower grade. But it is hard. Sometimes it might come out so strange, but so amazing. Like technically, it's horrible. But wow, this is such a cool concept you created. And so those are kind of things like, I'm giving you an A. It doesn't matter if it doesn't look quite right. This is just freaking amazing. And the kid just did, very, didn't really think too much of it, right? But then you have to explain to them why they're getting an A, and then that kid next to him who created an amazing piece is also getting an A. I'm like, that's the hard part.
That's the difficulty of being in a system,
Yeah, you got to create some sort of system, but
So let's see some questions from our folks here.
That's a question, but we're kind of adding to the conversation, I think. Years ago now, back when I was doing my student teaching, way too long ago. But I remember the person who's in charge of my student teaching talking to me about the 4 pillars and how important that was to teach to the kids. And she taught it as the 4 pillars that built your house, and if any pillar was off kilter, your house was crooked. And it was career, family, health, and spirituality. And I think it always kind of stuck with me that spirituality she described as art. Not as in faith, not as in like God or religion, but as just kind of this interior view of yourself and the world around you. And she defined it very much so with art. And I thought that was, for somebody who's not incredibly religious, I just wasn't raised incredibly religious, it's not something that's been around me. I thought that was such a fascinating way to view spirituality and the importance of art. And as a teacher, I think as one of the pillars to keep them healthy and growing well and happy, and the value of those humanities that we kind of talked about earlier. It's why that art matters so much.
I think that is beautiful. I think that's such an important element to bring to this conversation, because what we're seeing in these experiences that these 2 people have had is an offering of awe and wonder to these students. That there's a place in the educational system, not to teach didactic spirituality, but to teach awe and wonder. And the creative process is an awe-inspiring process. And to not have our babies have that, to not have our public have that is heartbreaking.
I think I also want to add to that is the power of curiosity. Is what happens if? That's always what happens. What happens if I mix crayons and watercolor? Like, what will happen? Right? What happens if you take gesso and put it over charcoal? I don't know. Let's see what happens. Right? So that power of curiosity, which is what I try to do. You have to balance it though, because it can get to be a pretty chaotic classroom. I'm not very good with chaotic classrooms, but I try to balance it because they get really excited and kind of bouncy. But especially the little ones, right? But let's stay curious. Let's stay questioning. What happens? So that's what those art journals are about. It's just play. It's a visual play. What happens if you're constantly going to learn.
The other thing I like that you said that I just want to emphasize about the art journaling is that it's a process that just doesn't ever end, really. It just goes on and on. I do my work in a journal too, and I will go back to previous journals and say, oh, this piece needs some more work. So it's like, that's the nice thing about keeping it in a journal. It's just this private thing that nobody needs to see.
Isn't that very much like you and I? We always need a little work. Right? You're never done.
Thich Nhat Hanh says, everybody is perfect exactly the way they are, and you could use a little work too.
So I have a couple of comments, if I may.
Yes.
So if you are an artist or you run an art program and you need a mobile art studio, our second neighbor here, Chris Finn, she owns the Art Bus, and so fully supplied, like a fully stocked art studio on wheels. So if ever you need that for some reason, you can contact the Art Bus.
That's
Chris Finn with a K, Chris Finn with two N's at the end. She lives right here, and I don't know where the Art Bus is. It's not at her house, but she has
I
it.
think I
So-
saw it right up on it the
Yeah.
other day.
So you can use that. That's one thing. The other thing is, we at Timucua Foundation, we also have an education wing to our mission. And my wife teaches piano, and she has always between like 45 and 50 students. And right now, we only have 8% of those who are on scholarship, but if you're interested in helping us find some donors, we would love for that percentage to go up higher. And the deal is that if they start at 3, they will get a weekly, hour-long, one-on-one music lesson and the equipment to play it on until they graduate high school. So it's a long-term commitment, and it absolutely changes people's lives, like totally. So it's a very powerful program, and I hope that I just wish that we could help more kids. We only have like 3 or 4 on scholarship right now, and I wish all 46 or 50 students were on scholarship. But we have like Haitian kids, like immigrants who didn't speak English at all when they arrived, and they learned English and music at the same time.
Wow.
And it sped up their learning of the English language
Fires up.
tremendously. So anyway, so that's one thing. So that's 2 things. The third thing is that artists in the U.S. earn $70 billion, and they contribute to society $1.2 trillion. And so we have been talking about, the higher plane of art, but there's also because I taught at McGill University, and I always struggled at first, I struggled with, ethically, is it okay? Like in Montreal has more musicians in the Union Book than New York City, and the city is 1/10 the size. So my struggle was, I'm forming musicians, and there's no work for them. There's too many musicians as it is. And in the end, it turns out that it makes better people.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. But also, they will some of them will find creative way to make money with their art. And for visual arts, for example, we have artists every month. Her name is Willow Cheek this month. She's pretty young, actually. But one of our artists in the past was in his 20s, and he's a freelance illustrator, and he just produces things that he likes and he pitches them. He's been published in the New Yorker, New York Magazine, in the Times, in the Washington Post, all of these places. He's an artist. There's different ways to make money with art. And you don't have to sell a piece of art like $12,000 to a collector. There's other ways, whatever form of art that you operate in. I'm an average trumpet player and a good conductor, but I made enough money to build this place and fund this organization for the first 15 years of its life completely on my own. So there is money to be made with music too, And so when parents would come and tell me, oh my God, he needs a safety net, I said, what safety net? I have in recession, people would lose their jobs. Like a banker would lose his or her job. That's it. They went from everything to nothing. I had 180 or 200 different employers every year. The economy goes bad. I go to 150 instead of 200. I don't lose everything. That's a lot safer, And so that's one way to look at it. And of course, when you persevere and you're resilient, you will succeed and you will make money. And so, that's the other thing is your students who are ending up studying art, it's not because just to make them better people. It's also, they can also make a good living out of it. And of course, writing is a black swan profession. Music is a black swan profession. You know what the black swan profession, black swan means once in a while, there's no limit to how big you can make it.
Yeah.
Like you can become Céline Dion. I played with Céline Dion. But I mean, you can be Céline Dion, like
Yeah.
only a few.
Yeah.
But that can happen. An author can make it big and make
Yeah.
like $1 billion. Like it's, it's not a profession where you're gonna make $60,000 a year every year exactly the same. But you can make 40,000 for 10 years and then make 400,000 for the next 10 years. Like, this is it. Like these are the 3 comments I had, just because sometimes we think of art as something that as unrelated to the societal demands of having to make money and it's not. It's connected. Everything is connected. And what you're doing with your kids is preparing them to be better people, which are more likely to be successful at whatever they do. But if it's art, they're also
Right.
likely to be successful. It's possible. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful, thank you, Benoit. That's excellent point. And something we don't, in fact, you hear the opposite of that more often. Like, I've had so many parents of students who are chagrined that their child is majoring in music or majoring in art or wants to be a writer. And, their concern is that they're not going to be able to support themselves. How are you going to get a job with a degree like that? So it's good to hear that perspective from Benoit.
I think the most important thing I tell my students is that they have a good head on their shoulders, that they can communicate well.
Yeah.
If they're flighty, it's the hardest. They're harder. I think it's harder to make a living.
Yeah.
Because you have to balance your checkbook at the end of the day. So you have to kind of have a good head on your shoulders. That's my perspective. I guess not everybody has that same. Some of the flighty artists really are crazy. Some of them are crazy, like amazing and successful, but
Yeah, Andrew.
I had a literature professor in college, and he strolled into he was a stroller. And anyway, he strolled into the commons room when a bunch of us were in there having a discussion. And one of the students in there had said, well, my parents want to know why I got out of the teaching and into the strict liberal arts program. And she said that her parents wanted to know, well, what are you going to do with a liberal arts degree? And this Dr. Butterfield standing there stirring his coffee, and he says, tell them what I was told my parents. What are you going to do without one? But the further thought came to me earlier was that, unfortunately, nowadays, you ask a student, what are you going to do without this degree? And they're going to go, who cares? There just seems to be an ennui of education. And that sickens my heart.
I don't know. Sam Harris, who's a philosopher and neuroscientist whose work I follow closely, says he thinks there's going to be a turn back toward the humanities as a result of all of this, AI and the, rising technological press. I hope he's right. I kind of doubt that he is, but let's hope that.
It is. I concur, and the reason why I say that is art is a quality of life thing.
Yes.
For example,
Thank you.
in the culinary fields, the chef, the plating is art.
Yes, that's right.
So it's like everywhere. Hopefully, the way we design our homes, be it French way or whatever, is art. Right?
Yes.
I need more walls or more ceilings.
Yeah, me too.
For art, but it is a quality of life issue. There's nowhere I go in the world where I don't go to a museum or the opera or whatever. But the way one looks at life, whether it be a book or whatever, even if you're using AI, you're saying, no, I need more negative space. Where do you get that from? You get that from the art. Somewhere in your brain knows that that looks better if there's more negative space. I'm an author, but I rely a lot on the visual art for my total expression. So I totally believe that that is going to be so.
Beautiful. I hope you are queen of the world one day. Any other thoughts, observations, or questions anybody would like to ask? Yeah.
I would love to share the story of my father. I think it's the right time to do so. He's an artist in India. I grew up in an semi-artistic household where my father is a paper mache artist, and he went to art school. He went to get his master's over there, but eventually when it came time for him to find a career in the arts, because of he had a brother with epilepsy and he had to take care of like 7 other people, he was able to get a job as a senior visualizer in a government setting where he was teaching people how to make educational films for the government.
Yeah.
And that's how he was able to eventually feed his family and also get me an education. My undergrad was here in Indiana. That's why I moved to the US at the age of 19 when I was doing that. But I grew up with him going to that 9 to 5 and then coming back home to get in the studio from 7 to 2 every single day, putting out that body of work while taking care of, I mean, obviously my mom, hats off to her, because I think the key part to supporting a lot of artists is also a partner that is there, that doesn't get spoken about a lot, because I think my mom was the voice, whereas my father was more about the expressionist on the canvas or the masks that he was making. But then also understanding that as he was doing all those things and I was watching him go through the struggles of life, but also what art meant to him from an expression point of view and how he held on to it for so long, he made sure that I got an MBA, number one. Luckily for my undergrad, he supported me. For my master's, I had a full scholarship to kind of have that spirit of that happening. But I was also the weird one out in my school growing up because I was the artist. And a lot of my art teachers actually knew my dad because he's collected by museums in India and other places while he had the government job happening. And I think when I'm 35 now, about to be 36, but 3 years ago I got a divorce, and that's when the art really mattered to me the most. All my life's work of watching my dad and being around the art galleries and looking at paintings and all those things came together when I needed it the most at that time. I was going through a divorce, a business divorce, and other things. My best friend was died, who has passed away of cancer. All those things, my fraternity brother was going through all this, and it was all happening in one place, and my parents are still in India. So I felt very stripped off of a lot of identities. I wasn't even a citizen then, I am now, but at that time I was an immigrant, didn't know when I was going to get a green card or this or that, or all those things that, immigration also goes through. And art was the only identity I could hold on to without relying on any system, on anybody. So self-reliance was a big, big, big thing that came out for me. And now 3 years later, after that process and looking at my life, I run an organization called Joyful Orlando, which is one of the biggest mindfulness communities platforms for Orlando it's under the Global Peace 360. I look at you because Peace and Justice Institute work very closely together with them. And while I've got a job doing that, I paint kitty cats, whimsical cats at night, and I do shows around it. I do live art shows and music shows and everything, all that together, living my fantasy of that. And also I run a business in marketing, which is a lot to do with expression and finding that unique voice and all those things. For me, I think looking at my dad keep that spirit of the artist alive, no matter whether it translates into being in massive collections or not. But that process that you're talking about, and my mom's a teacher, she's an anthropologist and a teacher, so that combination really gave me a lot of tools that I couldn't go and buy even from a mindset expert or a coach or being around other people.
That's such a good point. It would be hard to be able to pick out, like in a school curriculum, where would that capacity that you just explained.
Yeah, and
have.
I was lucky enough because you were mentioning about grading, for example, and I was thinking about this one time when I came back home with an F in my art, and the only reason was because I painted outside the lines. And my father was like, "You're good, keep painting outside the lines." So it's one of those things. I see the conflict because I think the art teacher
It's
also.
hard. I think you're recognizing it.
Yeah, and I think one of the greatest gifts that art has given me in general is the art of seeing things. Especially as a marketer, I know that we are always trying to tell you what to buy, what you don't have, what you need, blah, 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 blah. We're putting perceptions into other people's minds. Having your own inner voice, inner perception, inner perspective, art is a lifelong friend for all that, for sure, absolutely. And it's a good, as an MBA, I can tell you it's a good business decision to invest in an art.
Great. Benoit would approve of
I think
that.
curiosity, when he was speaking, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah,
Because look at
that's great.
any of the greatest brands. I mean, we're living in Orlando, Disney is right here. If there was no art in the mix of it, I understand that, at scale, things go haywire and people have their own intentions and this and that and all those things happen. But nobody can say that art is not a good investment. It's the right people that are needed around it, the people that are not just the artists, because sometimes artists are the most tormented souls as well, because you're mentioning mental health. And I was like, I think the rightly supported artist and the right ecosystems do matter a lot, and that's why art education in general is helpful for everybody.
I think that's so beautiful, and it's a big part that I got out of your story there is that there was something in the midst of all that trouble, difficulty, which is life, right? Everybody has those periods that they go through. There was this capacity that you had to reignite that sense of well-being that came from the rich background that you had and the diverse education that you had too. So well-being is such an important word to me. In Greek, the word is eudaimonia, and that's becoming, I'm hearing that word a lot more and more these days. It means literally in Greek a sense of well-being. But it also means, and this is what I would work with my students with so much, is it means living in an environment in which you can fulfill your highest potential. And that is what I would dream for all students and all human beings, actually, that you are in an environment where you can achieve a part, anyway, of your highest potential. Thank you so much for those comments. And thank you all for being here tonight. What a great evening to hear all these diverse stories and the sort of shared commitment we all have to arts in our communities. I'd like to close with just one more section from this book. I encourage you to read. This is at the ending. They say, throughout this book, we've shared some of the mechanisms, neurotransmitters, neural circuits, and networks that are activated in you by arts and aesthetics. We've shown you how the arts can be used to ease physical and mental distress, to learn more deeply, to galvanize community, and to help you flourish, to live in a state of eudaimonia. Let us go out into the world and do that, okay? Please come up and see Jolie's journals if you'd like to. Thank you all so much for coming out on a rainy night. We so appreciate it. Come back again.
Wonderful.